We're going to learn how to use MongoDB with Node.js in the shortest amount of time possible. Your first step is to go to mongodb.com. Click this try free button. It's free to try. There's no credit card required. Once you've created a free account, it should take you to this quick start guide automatically. If it doesn't do that, you can come over here. There's a quick start option right here that you can click on. For authentication, we're just going to use a username and password. You can type your username here. I've created a username called YT-user. And for the password, I'm having it be the same thing, YT-user. But it can be whatever you'd like, or you can let them generate a secure password for you. Click create user. Once you've done that, you should see a username and password created right here. Next, we need to let MongoDB know what IP addresses are okay to use to connect to your database. Since we're just learning how to use this, we're going to use our current IP address for our local computer, our local host. But in production, you might want to click this advanced option. This next part, you're going to have to let MongoDB know what IP addresses can access your database. This is so that not just anybody can access your database. The IP address has to be one that you have approved. Since we're just in development mode and learning, we're just going to use our local host IP address. But during production, you might want to use this cloud environment advanced setting option. So the easiest way to add your IP address for your computer so that you can get up and running is to click this add my current IP address. Once you click that button, you'll see your IP address appear down here. Once you've seen your IP address appear down here, you're ready to move on to the next step. I'll put all of these links in the description below. The next step is you're going to want to download the MongoDB shell. It should automatically detect what kind of platform you're using. I'm using a Mac, for example, but you can click this drop down and pick a different platform if you'd like. Just click this download button. Again, I'll put these links in the description below. There's two different places you can go to look up how to unzip your files and how to get it up and running on your computer, but we'll just go through this together because I found the documentation to be a little bit confusing. I'm using a Mac. If you're using a Windows computer, you will want to go to this documentation, click the Windows option to follow the instructions. I'll be really fast on this part. So your first step is to unzip the folder that is right here. And on a Mac, you can just double click on it and it'll automatically unzip it for you. Once you've unzipped it in your downloads folder, you can open up your Finder or the folder on Windows. It won't look like this. It'll look like a different folder, an unzipped folder. You can drag and drop the folder wherever you'd like on your computer. I dragged and dropped it to my users page, and it'll look something like this. As you can see, it says Mongo SH. Your next step is to open up a terminal and go to whatever directory that Mongo SH folder is inside of. Since I put it in my root folder, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm already in the TJ McCarty folder directory. So I'm going to type ls just to show you that it's in there. It's right there, Mongo SH. Go inside of the folder. So whether this is a Mac or a Windows, go inside of the folder. So I'm going to cd inside of it. And if you look inside of it, it looks something like this. There is a command in the instructions that I put in the description below. This cmod, this command here, and it might be different for Windows again. You want to copy that inside of the Mongo SH directory. You want to paste that there, click return. And when you do that, make sure there's no errors that pop up. If there are any errors, you're probably in the wrong directory. So it should just work. And then you can go ahead and exit out of your terminal for now. Open back up your Finder. Open a new Finder window. In that new Finder window, click Command Shift G to be able to look up something within the Finder. For a Mac, you'll want to go to this user local bin screen. And what you're going to want to do is, if you go back to this original Mongo SH folder, there's a bin folder in here. This Mongo SH, this right here, this binary right here, you're going to want to right click, copy it, come back to your user local bin, paste that into this folder. Once you've done that, something like this should appear in that folder. And just to make sure that this worked properly, you'll want to open back up a terminal, type Mongo sh space dash dash version, click return, and a number should appear under that. If a number appears under that, you know that Mongo sh is properly installed. If you do not get a number here, you should go back to the beginning of this video, try to follow the instructions again, make sure you didn't miss a step. You need to make sure that there's a number that appears in your terminal. Once a number appears in your terminal, you're ready to go. You're ready to start using MongoDB. This is a simple Node server, Node Express server I created. The code for this is in the description below. We're going to be adding all our MongoDB code right here. To get connected, you'll want to go back to the quick start guide on MongoDB. Once you've clicked this add my current IP address, you'll want to click this finish and close button. That should take you to a page like this. Once you've come to this screen, come down to the database that was created, click connect, go down to connect your application, click that one. You can choose which driver you'd like, whether you're using Node.js, Python, something else. We're using Node.js in this, so I'm going to select Node.js. You'll want to click this include full driver code example so that it shows you all of this code here, because this code shows you what to import, how to connect to the database, and how to create a connection to your database. So you'll want to copy all of this code here. Just copy all of it. Come back to your Node.js server. Right here, I'm just going to paste all of that right there under the MongoDB. Right here for the URI, you want to replace this password with the password you created. Again, mine was just YT user. You want to open up a terminal, say npm install MongoDB so that this require will work. Click return. Once you've done that, you're going to want to come to your extensions in Visual Studio Code. Once you've clicked extensions, look up MongoDB. It should be the first option that appears. It's called MongoDB for VS Code. It should say MongoDB for VS Code. That's the full name. Once you're there, you can click install. Then you should see this leaf over here in your sidebar. Over here, you should see a button that says add connection. If you've already added a connection, you can click this plus button too to add a connection. It's the same thing. It should bring you to a page like this. At first, it should say not connected. Let's go back to mongodb.com. Click go back. We just clicked this connect your application. What we need now to do is say connect using VS Code. So click that button. And what we're looking for right here is this connection string right here. Copy that, come back to VS Code, scroll down where it says connect with connection string, click connect, and a pop-up should appear. Paste your string there. You can go ahead and delete the test, the /test at the end of that. And where it says password, just delete all of that and put back in your password. Again, mine is YT user. Click return. Then it should connect you to that database. And you should see over here in your connections, it's right there. I have already created some different database tables already, but if this is your first time, it should just say admin and local. Once that has appeared, you can click create new playground. You can just exit out of this and the extension page. The new playground should look like this. You'll notice all of these things here. And for this playground, if you were to click run, it would create a new database for you that would appear under the connection strings within this MongoDB extension over here. And as you can see, I've run this already and it created this VS Code playground. I found all these things under here a bit confusing, so you can go ahead and run it just to see what happens. It'll show some results over here, but they're not really necessary to learn how to use this within Node.js. So you can actually delete these DB cells, find down, and all we're going to do is go ahead and add some things to a database. The way you create a database is you can just use this use function that's built into the playground. If you click on your extension, if the database name within here is already here, then it won't create a new database. But if this name were not in here, like for example, I say test2, this use function will create a brand new database. It'll create what's called a collection. If you're used to SQL, you may be thinking about tables right now, but really the way MongoDB works is it'll create a database, which is sort of like a table. Within those tables, instead of having like columns or something like that, it'll have something called collections. And that's why with these, they created a collection called cells, and that's what this is doing. So whenever you say DB in the playground, they're saying db.sales drop. What this does is it deletes everything that's currently within the sales folders within the database already, and then it inserts all of this db sales insert mini. And we'll just go ahead and do this so that you can have a clear idea of how all this works. We'll go ahead and go to Node.js after this, but basically if you're used to SQL, normally what you would do first is you would create the database table, add columns, data type, something like that inside of a program, sort of like Visual Studio, one of these extensions, but for an SQL database. Well, that's kind of the first step too, except with a playground. Your first step with MongoDB could be create your database table using this use function, name that table whatever you want, and to create a what's called a collection within that table, you can just say db dot whatever you want the table to be. So for this example, it's sales, and I'm going to create a new database called test2. And so as you can see over here, it already created this folder for me, sales. And then just like with JSON objects, you can really pass in any value that you want. You can see with the example they start you off with, they just pass in using this insert mini function. They pass in an array full of objects that each have IDs, an item name, price, quantity, date. So let's just go ahead and run this to see what happens. We'll click play. Yes. All right. And whenever you see a result over here, you should be able to open up this MongoDB extension. And if you click on your connection string again, close it, open it, maybe double click on it. Oh, and I'm sorry. So this didn't actually work. The reason is you should be using camel case, not, I put a dash there. So I'm going to change this to say test2. So you want to, whenever you're naming your database tables, you want to make sure you're using camel case. So I'm going to try that again. Click yes. All right. And it showed a result again. I'm going to come double click on connections. And there we go. It actually appeared that time saying test2. And it now has a collection within it called sales that it just automatically created when we said db.sales. And within there are 8 different documents that we passed in. And if you were to click on these documents, it would show you that data as a JSON object. All right, so we officially have a database named test2 with a collection called sales with some data in it. And again, this is just like step 1 whenever you're creating your databases with MongoDB. This is a quick way you can create your database, add some collections to it. And now we're ready to go to Node.js to start accessing that data and making updates to it. So this was the example connection that they gave us. So now we can go back to our Node.js server, back to this example connection that they gave us. You'll notice this client with this Mongo client function that's built into MongoDB. This gives us access to our database. Within there, again, like I said, they have what are called collections instead of like tables or columns. They're called collections, like collections of data. This first option here is the name of the database table that you created. So I just created something called test2. So I'm going to update this to say test2 to match this. And then I want to gain access to this sales collection. So I'm going to update devices. I'm going to say sales. And then you'll notice they gave a note here saying perform actions on the client object. This is where we're going to perform actions. So whenever you want to connect to or update a database table within your database, you can just, whatever function you're using in Node.js, you can just copy and paste this whole thing into that function, or you can copy and paste this maybe at like the top of of the controller screen if you have a controller. And then within whatever function you're using, you can create this client.connect, and that's how you would connect. And then within this function here is where, like I said, you can put the name of the table and the collection that you want to update, whether you want to create, read, update, or delete something. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to perform some CRUD operations. I'm going to create a note here saying CRUD for create, read, update, delete. And to perform these operations, MongoDB created a cheat sheet to help you know what to do. Again, I'll put this link in the description below. The biggest thing to remember here is the cheat sheet here uses the word DB, but instead of using the word DB, we can actually be using this word collection, because the collection is already connecting to the DB, the database, and the collection. And from there, if you use this word collection, you can do everything else that you would normally do in this cheat sheet. So instead of db.post.insert1, you could say collection.post.insert1. And so let's go ahead and perform C request, create request, or another way of saying that is a post request. Before I move on, I'm going to make sure it just says error up here. I want to turn this into an async function. So I'm going to say async up here so we can use the await command. Here I'm going to say await collection. I'll say return. Under that, I'm going to use this built-in function called insert1. This is how we're going to create some data. I'm going to make it, remember we're adding in data like this sales data that comes with ID, item, price, quantity, date. A cool thing about MongoDB is you don't have to post data for everything. You really can post anything you want. So I'm going to just post an object. In that object for an ID, I'm going to say underscore ID, and I'll give it an ID of 9. And all I'm going to pass in is an item that says XYZ. And you'll notice there's multiple items in here with an XYZ. In a bit, we're going to just get the items with an XYZ item matching. One thing to note here is if you do not add an ID here, it will create an ID for you automatically, and it'll just be a random string. So I could just say insert one item, and I'll just actually go ahead and do that first so you can see what happens. An important thing here is you want to use a catch command, this catch command here, just in case there's some sort of error. And to handle the error, I'm just going to create an arrow function, and I'll say console log error inserting. So I know there was something wrong, and you'll get an error. For example, if I were to use this ID and say maybe 1 or something like that, you'll notice in the database, there's already something with ID 1. So this would trigger an error. If you did not put in this catch function, it could break your server. It would just stop it because we're using this await function. So you want to make sure you have a catch. And again, I'll go ahead and take out the ID for now, just so you can see what happens with that. All right. And before we look at the data, we'll go ahead and create a read function, a read command, also a get post request. Another name for that is get. And if you come to our cheats sheet, you can come down here, go a little bit further, and there's a find command. And again, you actually can replace both of these with collection, because I forgot to mention it already is accessing the collection. In the cheat sheet, it's saying database, collection name, then find. So all we need to do is say collection.find. But this find command is how you find something. This is like the get request. So we'll just create a const called it matches, and we'll say await collection dot find. And then within here, you can add an object, and you can base off anything. So I'm going to say I just want to get all the items with a value of XYZ. And then there's something called sort. You can choose how you want to sort what is returned. If you say a value with a 1, it'll be ascending in ascending order. If you say -1, it'll be in descending order. So for this one, I'm going to say dot sort. I'm going to have it with an object in here based off the ID, and I'll say say 1 so that it's in ascending order. And this last part is really important. Make sure to say to array, trigger that function. And now we can say console log. I'm going to say matches. And let's go ahead and before moving on, just so you can see how this is working, let's go ahead and start this server. In my terminal, I'm going to say node, and it's just in the index file. And then as you can see, it found all the matches, all the ones with an item name of XYZ. And as you can see up here, we did not add an ID. And so it just created a random one for us. It's saying this is an object. So it could just tell that this is an object, and it assigned this ID to it. And let's try out this error handling to see what happens. So if I say ID again, I'm going to just put 1 to show what happens if you try to post something with the same ID, which this should not work because there's already something in there with an ID of 1. So I'm going to restart the server. And as you can see, it says error inserting like we just did there. Now I'm going to try just deleting that to show you what happens. As you can see, it errored out. And so it kind of broke the whole function because I said I wanted to await for this to happen. So again, you just really need to make sure you use a catch function anytime you're inserting data, especially if you give it an ID, just to make sure that you're handling the errors properly. All right, so let's move on to our update part of the CRUD operations, and that would be a put request. If you come back to the cheat sheet and go down a bit further, there's an update command. It's this update 1 command. Under here, I'll say await, and I'll say collection. Under that, I'll say update 1. I'll say I want to update ID 10. And before we move on up at this first insert 1, I'm going to change this to 10 so that it will actually work in inserting something, because there's nothing with the ID 10 as of right now. So that's all you have to do to find the correct object within your collection. So I'm going to say I'm going to update ID number 10, and I'm going to put a comma here and put a new object here with a $set. And what that means is we're setting the value of the collection with ID 10 to whatever we're about to say. And so all you have to do is say $set to set the value. I'm going to say item. I want to keep it XYZ, but I want to add some additional values to it. So I'll say price 6. Quantity 7, date, I'll just say new date, trigger that function. And now whenever we get this again, we should see an item with not just the item value in it. We should see an object with all of this in it. And there's another cool feature with the update 1. You can put a comma after this, create a new object. Within there, there's something called upsert. This is a Boolean that you say true or false. What this means is if you set this to true, what you're saying is if you can't find an object within this collection with a matching whatever parameter you gave it, for us it's ID 10. And just to really show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to change this ID up here to 9 so that this will create an object with a 9 value. But this will, since there's not an object with an ID 9 within the collection, upsert true will make sure that it'll create a new one for you. If you were to say false and it did not find an object with an ID of 10, it would just do nothing. So I'll actually set this to false first so that you can see that it won't do anything. Then I'll change it to true so that you can see that it does do something. All right, and I'm going to just copy this matches, this get command here. I'll come under here and I'll just change the name of the const to updated matches to show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and turn back on our server. All right, so you can see the first time when we inserted something with a new ID, it successfully inserted a new object with the ID of 9. And it also still has that object with the ID that it assigned for us when we didn't have the ID. Then if you come down here for the update command, it was looking for something with an ID of 10. There is not an object with an ID of 10. So for the updated matches, it just has the same exact thing. But if we change this upsert to say true, and then we start our server again, this time, as you can see, it actually added in a new object with the ID of 10 with all of these values. And now that we know that this value is in here, I'm going to change the quantity to 10. I'll restart this. And there, as you can see, it was 7, but this update command changed it to quantity 10. The last command to show is the delete command. So for the delete command / delete, all we have to do for this, if you come back to your cheat sheet and go down, there's something called delete one, and it works the same way. It just finds whatever you say and deletes it. So I'll just say await collection dot delete one. Within there, I'm gonna put an object, and I'm gonna say delete the ID 10. And now I'm going to just copy this, and again I'll update the name. I'll say matches with deleted item missing, and now I'll restart the server and it should appear missing in the final match. All right, so everything worked properly. You'll notice the error handling worked. It said error inserting because something with the ID 9 already exists. The first match shows the ID 9, the ID 10, and we already showed how the update function works. And now, so the updated function had an ID of 10, but the matches with deleted item missing, you'll notice for that last match, item with the item 10 is missing. So there is not an object with an ID of 10. And that is how to get up and running with MongoDB in the fastest way possible. You'll probably want to experiment more with this cheat sheet that MongoDB created to test out all the different functions available. Again, if you do that, just replace DB post with the word collection, and then you can test out all of the different functions that they have available. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you'd like to see more content like this. Let me know what you think about MongoDB in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.